Hi, family. How are you? It's African Osaranko back at you. So, family, I'm coming to you today with some information that comes from a long time ago, but it is still very pertinent in the movements and the actions that are occurring today in our current society. So, in 1978, under the presidential rule of Jimmy Carter, I'm sorry, there was something that was developed called Memorandum, National Security Council Memorandum 46. Okay. And this memorandum was conducted so that they would be able to prevent Black Americans and Africans from coming together globally, okay, and creating alliances to combat the racism, the everything, the subjugation, the uh, stealing of the resources in Africa, the things that were happening in America against Black Americans. So they devised a plan, family, to ensure that hostility between the two groups would be present. Okay. I'm going to read a little bit to you about this memorandum. And family, you can look this up. You can look it up yourself and get the information yourself. So it says the subject is Black Africa and the U.S. Black Movement. The president has directed that a comprehensive review be made of current developments in Black Africa from the point of view of their possible impacts on the Black movement in the United States. The review should consider long term tendencies of social and political developments and the degree to which they are consistent with or contradict the U.S. interests. Proposals for durable contacts between radical African leaders and leftist leaders of the U.S. Black community. Appropriate steps to be taken inside and outside the country in order to inhibit any pressure by radical African leaders and organizations on the U.S. Black community for the latter to exert influence on the policy of the administration towards Africa. The president has directed that the NSC Interdepartmental Group for Africa perform this review. The review shall be forwarded to the NSC Political Analysis Committee by April 20th. So he wanted this report conducted, he wanted this evaluation conducted within a month. And so that they can see. So it further says inside the United States, these actions could include protest demonstrations against policies towards South Africa, because at that time, a lot of Black Americans were protesting apartheid in South Africa and the treatment or the mistreatment of South Africans and really of Africans globally, including themselves who were in the United States. um, accompanied by demand for boycotting corporations and banks which maintained links with that country. Attempts to establish a permanent black lobby in Congress, including activist leftist radical groups and black legislators. The Pan African ideals, resumption of protests, marches recalling the days of Martin Luther King, who had already been assassinated, and establishing an African republic on American soil. Finally, leftist radical elements of the black community could resume extremist actions in the style of the defunct Black Panther, which we know that they were taken down. It says the recommendations specific steps should be taken with the help of appropriate government agencies to inhibit coordinated activity of the black movement in the United States. Special clandestine operations should be launched by the CIA to generate mistrust and hostility in American and world opinion against joint activity of the two forces, Africans and Black Americans, and to cause division among Black African radical national groups and their leaders. Three, U.S. embassies to Black African countries specially interested in South Africa must be highly circumspect in the view of the activity of certain political circles and influential individuals opposing the objectives and the methods of the United States. Okay, so family, because the Caucasian persuasion was so afraid of an uproar of black people within the United States, as well as outside of the United States in the African countries. Because, see, what it was going on is, as it is now, the American government and the other European nations need the resources from Africa. So, if Black Americans are going to Africa and are complaining with Africans, and Africans are saying, Black Americans are saying, hey, they stealing all your resources, and Africans are looking like, hey, they are stealing all of our resources. Then this would bring the two together, and so uh, the government didn't want this to happen. Okay, so let me continue. There was a plan, family. And the plan was that they were going to create a plan called the King Alfred plan. Now, some of you may know who King Alfred is, some of you may not. But it says a multiplicity of interests influences the U.S. attitude toward Black Africa. The most important of these interests can be summarized as follows. Political. If black African states assume attitudes hostile to the U.S. national interests, our policy toward the white regime, which is a key element of our relations with the black states, may be subjected by the latter to great pressure for fundamental change. They do not want to change. They did not want to change in 78. They did not want to change in 1878, and they do not want to change today in 2025. Okay, they want everything to remain the same, where they drain all the money and get all of the resources, and the black community, both abroad in Africa and here in the United States, receive absolutely nothing. It goes on to say, thus the West may face a real danger of being deprived of access to the enormous raw material resources in Africa, which are vital to our defense needs, as well as losing control over the Cape Sea routes by which approximately 65% of Middle Eastern oil is supplied to Western Europe. Do you hear that, family? Do you hear that? The only reason for them being in Africa is to snatch the resources out, okay? And collaboration between Black Americans, and because we've dealt with this devil for a whole lot longer than you guys, some of you guys, but collaboration with Black Americans and Africans would they thought ignite an uproar, and you know, uh, continuously people saying, no, this is not right. They're taking all of the resources. It goes on to further say economic. Black Africa is increasingly becoming an outlet for U.S. exports and investment. The mineral resources of the area continue to be of great value to the European nations for the normal functioning of industry in the United States and allied countries. It goes on to say uh, how much the United States at that time expected to gain, and it was in the billions. It was in the billions that they expected to gain, and that was why they were having a concern, because Black people were protesting here in America, and they were in an uproar, and they did not want this to go over to Africa. Okay, it continues to say Black Africa and the U.S. Black movement. Apart from the above mentioned factors adverse to U.S. strategic interests, the nationalist liberation movement in Black Africa can act as a catalyst with far reaching effects on the American Black community by stimulating its organizational consolidation and by inducing radical actions. Such as result would be likely as there went the way of Angola and Mozambique. An occurrence of the events of 1967 and 68, and what happened was when Martin Luther King was assassinated, Black people went off the chain. They were protesting, they were burning stuff down, and all kind of stuff was going on. But an occurrence of the events of 1967 and 68 would do grievous harm to U.S. prestige, especially in view of the concern of the present administration with human rights issues. See, even back then, the world was questioning America on their human rights issues that they were doing against Black people. Even then, okay? Moreover, the administration would have to take specific steps to stabilize the situation. Such steps might be misunderstood both inside and outside of the United States. Okay? Yeah. So it goes on to say possibility of joint action by U.S. Black and African nationalist movements. There's another. Okay, so it says the FBI should mount surveillance operations against Black African representatives and collect sensitive information on those, especially at the UN, who oppose U.S. policy toward South Africa. The information should include facts on their links with the leaders of the Black movement in the United States, thus making possible at least partial neutralization of the adverse effects of their activities. Family, these are things that these people have been working at a long time. I want to read you a part where it talks about the steps that they would take. Okay, I think, okay, so it says, essentially, family, what it said was that if the specific steps that they wanted to take was to get all of the law enforcement. So they were going to get the National Guard, they were going to get the state police, they were going to get police officers at the forefront. And what they would do, what they discussed would happen would they would send in the bootlicks and the coons and try to get them to talk the people down and to stop protesting and stop, you know, being in an uproar over being mistreated, mishandled, abused, and everything else. And so, if that didn't work, then they were going to enact the King Alfred plan. And the King Alfred plan is to was to round up, and it said it would take approximately 8 hours, and it was to round up all the blacks and minorities within the United States and put them in camps, such FEMA camps, okay, and put them in camps so that they could not uh, be of harm to any white people, and so that they would stop protesting and do what they were told as children are supposed to do, right? But, family, I'm saying all of that to say this. We have to understand the open enemy that we are working with every day, every day. Every day, we have to look at this from a rational perspective. We cannot get in the way to, you know, a lot of people were upset at Dr. Martin Luther King as to why he was not I'm sorry, I want to take my glasses off. As to why he you know preached nonviolence. And the reason why he preached nonviolence was because, family, he knew that uh, let the world see we're praying, we're walking, we're kneeling, we're on our knees, we're begging, and they still beat us. They still sick dogs on us. They still put water hoses on us. They still abuse us. So him and his colleagues thought that if we show the world that how abusive they are to us, no matter how peaceful we are, then the world will know. But the world watched. The world watched as black people were sprayed, black people were beaten, black people were shot, just like during the 2020 uh, protests when George Floyd was killed and black people were protesting. Now, many of those protesters um, were nonviolent, and I think, of course, as they do, like some of these other groups, that they infiltrate the protests and they start doing things, because there were people saying that there were people just trying to start fires and tearing up stuff, and there was even a brother during these protests that stopped a couple of white people, Antifa, they were, that would just start tearing up stuff and trying to set stuff on fire. Family, we are dealing with the same enemy that we dealt with so many moons ago when they came to the coast of Africa to withdraw our people. We are dealing with that same enemy. We are dealing with the same enemy, family, that fed our babies to alligators to use them as alligator bait. We are dealing with the same people, family, that strange fruit are men and women, okay, and children. We are dealing with the same enemy, family, that set bodies afire and had picnics. They sat around and watched it and had picnics and ate and talked and laughed and had just come from church and drank and all of those things. We are dealing with the same enemy. And family, I'm going to tell you this. It is time for the continent of Africa as well as American black people to come together and unite globally. Now, we are not trying to be violent. We are nonviolent people. We are people that, black people are people that are loving, are giving, are caring, but we are tired of being abused. And so we just want to withdraw. We want peace. Just as the African leaders, some of them anyway, not all of them, but some of them are asking or demanding that the European nations get out of their countries. We want out as well. We are tired. We are tired and we want peace because we are a peaceful people. And rather than, you know, if the resources were here in America, the resources that they're draining from Africa, if the resources were here in America, do you believe that the African nations could come over here and get those resources? No, they could not. They would not be able to go and get those resources and use them for the betterment of their country while this country went down the toilet hole. They wouldn't do it. And so they wouldn't allow them to do it. And this is why the African leaders that are standing up now, I am 1,000,000% behind them, as are most Black Americans, if not all. We are so happy to see these things because it is high time. And Africans and Black Americans, please come together. That come together. No bickering. None of the separation. None of the tactics. Don't let the tactics of the enemy keep you blinded. Because let me tell you something, this plan that was put in place was going to start here in the United States, but would be carried out over in Africa. So please believe and trust this family that we have to come together for the greater good of Black people. And it is how we are supposed to do. And this is how we have to treat each other with kindness, respect, and love. All right, family, I hope you understand everything that I have brought to you today. And I pray that we will one day see one nation under God of all melanated people, Black people, brought together. I'm praying for that day, family. I hope I'm there to see it, and I hope you're there with me to see it as well. And we just have to keep going and working at it and never give up hope. Family, I thank you so much for joining me. I hope you will like, share, and comment. And family, make sure you look up that Memorandum 46 and the King Alfred's plan. I'm telling you, when you read it, it will send chills down your spine. And I want to thank, there's a YouTuber, I think it's T3 and Me, brother who is in Tanzania with his wife. And then there's a brother Afro Think Tank who also I got some information from watching one of his videos. Family, we got to be aware. We have to wake up and snap out of slumber and continue to grow, work together, and we foresee a beautiful future with us and our families. Family, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day and take care. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.